Hey YouTube, to what is the surprise of probably many, Fossil Cup Great League is on for another week. So it's Ultra League and Great League Fossil Cup. So I know a lot of people don't have the XLs to play Ultra League, so they're going to play this limited cup again. We just played this for an entire week. So what I'm going to do is do my own updated tier list. pvpoke has a tier list and a lot of people just go off that based on to get an idea of what they want to play, and then they play and then they adjust their rankings based on that. Having played this for a week now, I am going to update this rankings of what I think is the best Pokemon for this meta. S tier being the best one, A being extremely strong, B being I've used it and it's decent, could be on team. C is I probably wouldn't use it, and then I don't think I'm going to put anything in D. So let's start. I'm going to start with Reggie, and I'm going to put Reggie in A. Maybe we'll adjust the A. I'll put it here for now, somewhere in the middle of A. Reggie's, I'm going to try and do this quickly because I know a lot of the times in these tier lists, people just go look at the back of just seeing, well, what's the list look like? So Reggie is one of those Pokemon where the only reason it's how is a Pokemon that's always so dominant is ranked so high is actually lower on my list. The reason is because there are so many Pokemon in this meta that go unchecked that can beat it. So you got the Mud Boys in Quagsire, Swampert, and Whiscash. You got the Fighters in Lucario and Escav. You have a Sandslash, which you can hit a couple drill runs. You're going to outpace the superpower, so that's not great. But you have Lantern, which does okay. You have Mawile, which is a fire, right? So like a lot of the meta there that you're seeing below is an answer to Registeel. That being said, Registeel's still a strong Pokemon because the Focus Blast is going to one-shot a lot of these things on the list. Or the Zap Cannon is the same thing. You're going to put it super, super low for most of these things or take it out. So you just can't beat a Pokemon that charges extremely fast and has charge moves that do like 150 damage, right? So that is why it is still on the list of the top, but it gets knocked down because that there's so many answers to it. One of the answers that Registeel is good against, but is still S on my list, is Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn, I think, is just like almost unchecked besides the steals on this list. Steals obviously give it the biggest issue, which is why you run Thunder on it, but outside steals and counter users. But I mean, those counter users are generally steals, and I guess there's a couple fire in Mawile, and but Mud Boys are everywhere. Hit super effective against that. Pelipper is everywhere as an answer to grass for the Mud Boys. You still do well against that. Tons of water in this meta, like Lantern, Jellicent, stuff like that. You do well against that. You resist the grass from Ludicolo. When you can hit for super effective in 2 out of the 3, right? Super effective against water and super effective against rock, only steel being your issue, you're super strong. And same thing, I use it as a safe swap. Even in like the worst case scenarios, you get hit with like Lucario or something, that you're still probably like grabbing a shield or doing like insane chip damage. So it is definitely higher for me. Swampert, there's no point of putting it any higher than B, quite honestly. It's a great, like, Swampert just super strong just based on the Hydro Cannon alone. The problem is with so many water Pokemon, so many water/grass Pokemon, and a couple of the other water Pokemon being like issues such as like flyers and stuff like that, like Pelipper, it has so many limitations in this meta. It still does well. Like there's still the steals, like I mentioned, but outside the steals, in best you're a neutral situation against other water type Pokemon. The Earthquake helps. Like the Earthquake is such a strong move, it helps, but like not against Pelipper. So for me, I'm not using Swampert. I'm always using Quagsire. Lucario, I just put out a video the other day on Lucario versus Escav, and for me, Escav is better. That being said, I still think both of them are A tier. So let's just do this. I'm going to put Lucario here, down here, and I'm going to put Escav above it. Actually, I like Escav above Registeel, quite honestly. So let's just put it like this for now. Reason being, counter users still have a ton of play of this, right? There's not a ton that resist counter. There's only 2 on this list that you see here, Jellicent and Pelipper. The only thing that and I guess Bug here and Golisopod. Not a lot of people are running Golisopod, but it does resist. So counter is generally unchecked, which is very, very good in this meta, especially that there's a lot of things on the steals that are weak to counter. Why I give Escav the edge, if you go watch the video, is because 1, it is a little more bulky. 2, it doesn't just get destroyed by the Mud Boys. You can actually hang in there. Plus, you can actually grab shield from the Mud Boys. like you can go Mega Horn, straight Mega Horn on Quagsire and win that matchup, right? With that, as opposed to like Lucario, which is just going to be mud bombed immediately taken out. So for me, both strong counter users. If I'm using a counter user, I'm using Escav. Ludicolo is an interesting one because it has the potential in the 1 and 2 shields to do so much damage, and then it also has the chance of being walled. Like if you I've 2 shielded Pelipper in 1. Obviously, if you get it against like one of the mud boys, you're just dominating. Lantern's a little trickier, but again, there's so much water in this meta, so it is strong. Problem is, if you get it against like a Ferrothorn or something that resists the grass, like a Steel, you're most likely going to lose the matchup, right? Because your opponent is just going to farm up, take you out, and just come out with a ton of energy. So it's good if there is like it's like the very, 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 very bottom of A or top of B. Like I put it ahead of Swampert because I think it's better than Swampert, but like I think it's B, quite honestly, just because of its limitations in this meta, just being absolutely walled by some of the steals. And the problem with Waves Relief is if you get walled like that, your fast move, where your fast move damage is your bread and butter, if you get walled like that and your opponent can just farm up to 100 and take you out, it's not a good situation to be in. So it's a little too limited in this meta for my liking. Quagsire, I'm putting up here. There's only, again, when your only weakness is grass, 2 of these 3 grass are actually neutral to your fast and charge move, right? Because Ferrothorn's half steel, and Cradilly's half rock. So you actually do neutral in those situations. And the only one you have problem against is the Ludicolo. So having that on the lead, having a mud boy that can also hit super effective against a flyer, that's why it's so much better than Swampert, because it's super effective against flyer. It's tanky. It's great in neutral situations because of its tank and its spamming and stuff like that, right? So Ferrothorn, and let's just put a Pelipper, like these 3 have been sort of my core building teams around for this cup. Pelipper, same thing. Pelipper's really only issue is Lantern. Lantern is the only thing that walls you. Otherwise, you're hitting for at least neutral. You're a great answer to the counter users. You're a great answer to the grass. You're so spammy with the weather balls. You do well against the other mud boys. So I think Pelipper, if you just keep it away from Lantern, is dominant. And these 3 have been so strong for me. Again, I think these 3 were my best team. Yeah, Quagsire lead because it only loses to grass, Pelipper, and Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn stays so because Ferrothorn even doesn't have a ton of bad matchups. So for sure, those 3 are my best tier Pokemon, just versatility, strength against the meta, and stuff like that. Berserker, I'm going to put in B. I know people have said really good things about Berserker. I have a couple problems with Berserker. The first being just how glassy it is, right? 1, extremely glassy. 2, the steel without a secondary typing hurts you a ton, right? Because you're weak to all the ground in this, which is a lot of that, and you're weak to the counter users, which is a decent amount, and you're weak to fire, which is like 1 or 2. So with that, plus one of your strengths is having like the close combat, which you can usually nuke stuff for. Problem is a lot of this stuff here either resists it because it's like Ghost. I mean, you have Foul Play for Ghost, but Pelipper as a flyer. Or it like doesn't take out. Like a close combat does not take out Quagsire. A close combat doesn't take out, I don't think it takes out Ludicolo, right? There's just so many Pokemon where your nuke move that lowers your defense does not take people out. So for me, it just like, it's fun to use. You can use it as a closer if you get shields down, but outside of that, it's not a great Pokemon. Jellicent, I'm going to just start moving these over a little bit because I'm going to put Jellicent in A. I'll put Ludicolo ahead of it. I think Jellicent is strong. Jellicent's strength is, 1, it's extremely bulky relative to a lot of other Pokemon on this list, right? Like you just look what's up there: Escav, Lucario, Pelipper, Swampert, Berserker, like way more bulk than the majority of these Pokemon. Shadow Ball, there's no darks in this, right? There's no darks, so you don't need to worry about being walled. Your Shadow Ball is going to do great in every neutral situation. So between the bulk and that, it's a strong Pokemon. The only sort of drawbacks is, like, again, there's a few grass in here, which causes you problems. Plus, like there's a Registeel which has the Zap Cannon, which is going to beat you. So, but outside of that, I guess Lucario has Shadow Ball too. Lucario is pretty glassy though, so you can deal with that. So outside the grass, oh, and Lantern. Lantern, again, you can get Shadow Ball off, but Lantern's going to light you up. So a few things that light you up, but Shadow Ball, Bulk, and Shadow Ball in itself will do good for you in general. Lantern I'm putting as an A as well, just because it is an incredible check to Pelipper, and in neutral situations does great. The only problem is when you're in a meta which is run by water, but a lot of these water also resist you, and most of these other steels like are also half grass, which beat you. So for me, Lantern, and there's so many mud boys, right? So between the mud boys, between the limited flyers, between all these water with secondary typings where you don't even do super effective against the water, like Ludicolo with grass, Quagsire and Swampert and Whiscash coming up with ground. It's just like it's too limited. I think it's still extremely strong Pokemon because Lantern, like we said, stat product and moveset is sort of broken in general, so it's still strong. But for me, there's just other Pokemon I want to use first. Whiscash is the exact same as Swampert. At least you have Blizzard, I guess, to hit. But for me, just like the bulk. Let me actually just check the bulk on Quagsire versus Whiscash, because to me, Quagsire is just much better, and I want to confirm that through. So it's interesting because Whiscash is actually overall stat product bulkier. It's a little lower on attack, 111.2 to 107.5, less on defense, 112 to 107.5, but more on the stamina, 161 to 178. So it actually has an overall higher stat product than Quag. I think Quag only takes like 7 mud shots to get to the Stone Edge. Well, I think it takes like 8 or 9 to get to the Blizzard. So I think the fact that your nuke move for coverage is much lower and is like takes longer to get to, and you have the higher stat product, the lower stat product on the attack, makes for me Whiscash a little less. And again, there's so many just grass Pokemon that are dominating this meta right now. Again, it's not a bad Pokemon. I kind of think that just based on this, I would actually put it ahead of Swampert. I would probably put it ahead of Swampert. Like Swampert, if I'm gonna go double Mud Boy, Quagsire and Whiscash is probably what I'm gonna go before I go Quagsire and Swampert. Sandslash, I'm gonna put it in A. Again, you cannot discount the Steel here against. Problem is, Steel is such a strength and weakness in this meta. It's so strong because to your top Pokemon that I think are Ferrothorn and Pelipper. So just being able to resist the wing attacks and the grass moves is so key. Problem is, you're pretty glassy. A couple counter users, multiple mud boys, close combat on Berserker, focus blast on Registeel. So there's a lot that can get to you in this meta. And again, when you don't have much to check the counter users, and Sandslash just gets lit up by counter users. Plus, we haven't even gone over the fire yet. Like it just seems like there's too many options to get to you. But again, in neutral situations, you're spammy. Draw run still hurts again against the steels. You have the ice as a neutral against these grass type Pokemon, so it's still pretty strong. Cradily I'm putting in B as well. Maybe you move it ahead of like a couple of these. Again, I just think that like in terms of a grass type Pokemon, that rock typing kills you in this meta, because instead of resisting the ground, you're now neutral to the ground, and then you add a fighting weakness. You add instead of resisting grass, you add a grass neutral, like rock is weak to grass, so you neutralize the grass is now neutral. So when you pick up and you pick up water too, right? So instead of if you were just grass, you would have resisted ground and you would have resisted water. and you would have resisted grass. But picking up that half rock typing, you're now neutral to all of those. And for that, it just kills you. Because now instead of having like 7 things on this list doing resisted moves to you, they all do neutral. So for that, it's just like too many things kick you there. Golisopod, I'm going to do Mawile first, because Mawile I think is B. It was one of those Pokemon where it was just like, if you get it on a Ferrothorn or a Lucario or like an AC and Slash where you can just do super effective damage, holy smokes, it just lights them up. Again, but the problem is when 90% of this, not 90%, but when the majority of this meta is, I'm using Fire Fang, right? When the majority of this meta is water, or has like at least a secondary water component, like Ludicolo, it just like, it ends up being neutralized or resisted, and then it takes a while to actually get to a move, and by that time they're loaded up. So it's one of those Pokemon where it's like, dang, when you get it on something that's weak to fire, it is amazing. But outside of that, it's just like, eh. Golisopod is so tricky because I haven't run it on team. I tried it, and it was one of those things where it's like, oh, I love this and I hate this at the same time. So I'm really undecided. If there's somewhere that I can put it between like A and B, I would. And I guess I can because this is my tier list. I can do what I want. Golisopod is one of those things where it's like, so it's half water, half bug. So let's just look at that typing and think about the strengths and weaknesses here. Bug, you're resisting your counter users. Escav, Lucario. Pro. The bug resists ground. So you resist your mud shots and your mud bombs and your earthquakes and your drill runs and everything there. I already said you resist the counter, fighting, so Focus Blast resisted. The problem is you're half water, so you add the electric weakness. But again, that's just Lantern and Registeel with the Zap Cannon. But the bug also adds a flying weakness. So Pelipper lights it up pretty quickly. It's very spammy. It's a little glassy. Shadow Claws is pretty good in this. It's just all, again, there's no dark, so Shadow Claw is good in neutral situations. The main problem, I remember the main problem with it. The main problem with it is your Chew charge moves. Liquidation, which again, so many water Pokemon. So if you get against like a non-mud boy, if you get against a grass, Ferrothorn, any grass, or a water type Pokemon, your main charge move of Liquidation is resisted. So you can only go X Scissor, and X Scissor is a terrible move. Right? So it just, you are spammy. Liquidation in neutral situations is good. It's not great, it's good. But just between like the meta, like Stone Edge is a one shot because you're weak to rock as a bug, right? So just looking at my top Pokemon, Ferrothorn's gonna light you up because they don't light you up, but you can only throw X Scissor and Claws. You can Pelipper's gonna light you up because it's super effective with Wing Attack. Even though the mud shots are resisted, Stone Edge is a nuke for you because your take's super effective. But good against counter users. But even the counter users, like I'm probably shielding a Mega Horn, right? I'm probably shielding a Mega Horn against Escav, so it's like you're dropping a shield there. So for me, it's a tricky one. I may try and use it on a team because again, this is on next week, so I might want to try and use it and just showcase it. But that is it. Those are my main Pokemon. I know there's others. I was debating about others. Like I've seen some creator put out Shadow Gyarados, so I know that was on a few teams. It's funny how Kartana is ranked number 2, but I don't think anyone can get it because I think you need to like trade for it to get it below. So you haven't seen many of those. Araquanid, the water spider, again, it's like a worse Golisopod because at least Golisopod has the Shadow Claw charge move. But then it has but Araquanid has Bubble Beam, again, resisted by so many things here, and Bug Buzz, which is resisted by so many things too, between the Steels and the Ghost, and it does neutral against water, which is fine. but flyers resist it, right? So there's just so many things that I haven't seen Arcanine. Poliwrath, I wanted to use it. It says the Shadows ranked so much higher because Mudshot, Dynamic Punch will hit hard for so many things, then Ice Punch too. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any Poliwrath, so I can't really talk to it. And then we're getting into other Pokemon I haven't seen a ton of. G-Fisk. I haven't really seen G-Fisk. Again, if you're gonna run a Steel, you're probably just running Registeel for the Zap Cannon, right? And the Focus Blast. Those moves are just so much better than the other two right now. And then yeah, we're down to Melmetal, Regirock, Togedemaru. Someone asked me, how come you haven't used Togedemaru? I tried, and you run into like Ferrothorn is an issue to a certain extent. All the Mud Boys resist you. The counter users light you up. So Togedemaru, unfortunately for this meta, is not great. Skarmory, again, why would you use Skarmory when you can just... I mean, Skarmory is better because it will actually resist the grass, but why would you use Skarmory if you're just going to get walled by Steels instead of using Pelipper, which spams Weather Balls? Yeah, and then I haven't seen anything in the 40s here be used. So that's the main meta for this league. And it is on again this week. So I may try Golisopod again. I may try... I don't know if I want to try double Mud Boy because I even put out a double grass lineup because I've seen so many Mud Boys. I've seen a few more Ludicolos pop up. So I might try Golisopod. I'll probably stick to, if I'm going to play this league, I think I'll probably play more Ultra League, but if I'm going to play this league, it's going to be something of the top 3. If I'm using like, if I could have pick show 6 Pokemon, it's the 3 in the S tier, it's Escav, yeah, so let's just, these won't be my top again. So everyone's already seen the list. But if I had to pick 6, I would do these 4 for sure. I don't know. This is tough. I may use a Sandslash, quite honestly. I'm interested to try a Sandslash. I gotta try this. A Sandslash is probably pretty good just because, again, between the counter users though, I don't know. Again, ignoring that I'm gonna be triple weak to fighting here. Like maybe you want Jellicent. Something. I know that's 7. Again, Lantern's not bad either, but again, too much grass in this right now. So some of these, if I have to mix and match, again, I'm going to try Golisopod because I want to test it out. But if I had to mix and match top S's and A's that I want to use, it's going to be sort of like these 7. But I also want to try Golisopod. So that's it. If you're going to play this, good luck. Let me know if there's a Pokemon that you've like used last week that's like you need to use this Pokemon, or you're not using it properly, or this team has been killing it. But otherwise, it's a very, very small meta, so it's tough to be super creative with it, which is actually a lot more, so many more options in Ultra League. So I may play that more, but I don't know. We'll see. That's it. That's my tier rankings. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.